everyone, my name is Larissa and today we're going to talk about CMT and sleep. What kind of sleep problems people with CMT face and what are ways to overcome these problems. Okay, let's go. So first of all, it's interesting that there is quite a bit of research on CMT and sleep at this point. And research shows that yes, indeed, people with CMT face multiple problems when it comes to sleep. First of all, sleep quality. So sleep quality is composed of two components, sleep continuity and sleep architecture. So sleep continuity means that you can fall asleep and sleep continuously throughout the night without waking up. And sleep architecture means what kind of phases your sleep is composed of. It's known that sleep is composed of different phases: deep sleep, light sleep, REM sleep. Normally, when people don't have any disorders, in average people, there is a certain proportion of different sleep phases that should be followed, that should be present in the sleep. But these two components of sleep quality, the sleep continuity and the sleep architecture, seems to be impaired in people with CMT. And according to one study, around 80% of people with CMT are bad sleepers based on these two parameters, versus only 17% in the control group, in people without CMT. Second, restless leg syndrome and periodic limb movements. So these are kind of disturbances that people with CMT experience, and this of course impairs their quality of sleep. So restless leg syndrome and periodic limb movements is this urge to move your legs, sometimes accompanied by pain, and these two are distinguished between each other. And of course you should go and talk to your doctor and get diagnosed if you have either of these two, but many people with CMT have either one or the other. And according to estimations, around 18% of people with CMT have restless leg syndrome versus 8% in the control group. But I'm pretty sure that when it comes to periodic limb movements, almost everybody probably with CMT has it. So periodic limb movements is characterized by these twitches in the legs, again by kind of jerkiness in the legs when you are falling asleep, especially, and during sleep. And definitely I have that. I used to have more of it when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, just when my symptoms started. I think now I have less of that, but still definitely I have this kind of periodic limb movements. And for me, I don't think it disturbs my sleep as much, but of course it disturbs people around me because if I'm always jerking and kind of twitching, then it might be difficult to sleep with me for other people. So sleep quality might be of course affected by restless leg syndrome and periodic limb movements. Then people with CMT experience such symptoms as pain sometimes and leg cramps. So these two also could be blamed for disturbed sleep quality. And I have leg cramps. I used to have them a lot. Now I don't that much or almost at all. But again, when I was a teenager, I had it a lot and it was disturbing my sleep because sometimes I would just wake up during the night and I wouldn't fall asleep until it goes away. As for restless leg syndrome, it's quite interesting that it's actually worse in females than in males, and it's worse in CMT2 than CMT1. So probably if you have CMT type 2 and if you're female, you are much more likely to develop restless leg syndrome, especially compared to people without CMT. Another thing that happens during sleep with people with CMT is a disordered breathing, and one of the examples is sleep apnea. So again, if you have something like that, better to talk to the doctor, and in some cases doctors might prescribe specific treatment, like for example a mask with pressure, so that your breathing is kind of controlled a little bit better. And breathing and CMT is a different topic, but of course breathing might be impaired in CMT, and it is connected to the phrenic nerve, which leads to the diaphragm, which can lead to the weakness in the diaphragm. And we should definitely be strengthening our diaphragm with breathing exercises, which I will talk about a little later in this video. Another sleep-related kind of problem that people with CMT might be experiencing is daytime sleepiness. And again, according to estimations done in studies, 32% of people with CMT experience pathological daytime sleepiness. This is important, versus 12% in control people. So 32% people with CMT and only 12% of people without CMT. And of course, everybody can experience daytime sleepiness, especially if they undersleep, right? But here researchers talk specifically about pathological daytime sleepiness. So they have specific ways to measure it, specific scales, scores, and that's what they do in studies. So again, we can tell that, yeah, in people with CMT, daytime sleepiness is much higher than in people without CMT. So all of these kind of sleep-related problems are pretty common in people with CMT, and they are correlated with anxiety, depression, and fatigue. So these three also are pretty common in people with CMT, and if you have one of these or all of them, you're more likely to have poor sleep quality. And of course, what is the cause, what is the effect is very hard to tell, but I think it's important to know about that and to let doctors also know about that and ask for their advice if necessary. And the last part that I want to bring is sleep duration. So as far as I know, there are no studies really showing that sleep duration is impaired in people with CMT. Although again, I would not be surprised if people with CMT need to stay longer in bed to get that kind of refreshing, let's say 7, 8, 9 hours of sleep that other people need. Just because the sleep is interrupted, the continuity of sleep might be disturbed in people with CMT. So in general, probably people with CMT need to stay longer in bed to get those 7 or 8 hours that they need to sleep. Now, when it comes to duration of sleep, it's very much dependent on the person. In fact, there is a specific mutation that was found in several people, a specific variant of the gene that was found in some people, which allows them to sleep less but feel good. So there are some lucky people like that. They can sleep for like 4 or 5 hours and they don't feel tired or fatigued or anything like that. But this is not normal. This is just few lucky people in the world. For the majority of people, including for people with CMT, adequate kind of duration of sleep is needed to feel good and to function well. So this is considered around 8 hours. And we should be having those 8 hours. Fun fact, I have this Fitbit smartwatch, which I really love to track all kinds of goals, all kinds of activities and stuff like that. And it also tracks my sleep. So I can tell what's up with my sleep if I have any troubles. It shows me what I kind of already know intuitively based on just my behavior, what I notice and what other people I sleep with notice. And the first thing is that it does feel like I need to sleep longer, in the sense that I need to go to bed probably a little earlier and wake up a little earlier than a different person would, because my sleep is not continuous. So my Fitbit shows that yes, I have more waking events during the night than a similar person. So I guess meaning of the same age and sex as me. Then I also need more time to fall asleep, and I have less deep sleep. So these 3 points I can see my Fitbit telling me: less deep sleep, more awakenings during the night, and it takes longer for me to fall asleep than people like me. So again, probably my age and my sex, maybe my level of fitness or something like that. And now that we know that these things might happen, what can we do, right? So, well, first of all, if there are specific symptoms, of course, it would be better to deal with them. Like if there is pain, if there are cramps, if there is restless leg syndrome, it would be better to deal with them. And doctors might have different solutions, including medications, but I would recommend first trying to do things on your own before maybe getting medications, unless it's already pretty bad and you really need medical kind of attention. So there are many techniques to improve sleep. First of all, developing a routine, a nighttime routine, such as brushing your teeth, getting into nice pajamas, being comfortable in bed, having all kinds of comfortable sheets and blanket and pillow, which is comfortable, which suits you, and maybe reading or listening to calm music. So calming activities are very important. Maybe taking a bath. So for me personally, taking a bath, reading, and having a bedtime routine, this is pretty good and helpful. Some people with CMT told me that they enjoy sleeping machines. So these are specific machines that produce some kind of different sounds, right? Like nature sounds, for example. And this could also be helpful for you to fall asleep. Next, exercise definitely helps to have better sleep. And in people with CMT, it was also shown. There is a study that explored if exercise, if a specific physiotherapy helped with sleep and pain and cramps, night cramps. And indeed it did. So exercising, combining all kinds of different exercises, cardio, strength, stretching, balance for your hands, for your feet, for the whole body, all of these are good, only without too intense exercises. So we're trying not to overdo it for sure, because this can actually impair sleep. We're trying to cater everything to our abilities, to our kind of feeling, how our body feels, and we progress slowly. Next, specific exercises such as breathing, like I already mentioned, are really good to fall asleep actually. So when you do deep breathing, diaphragmatic breathing, or belly breathing is also called, you are stimulating the vagus nerve and upon the whole your parasympathetic nervous system. Probably you've heard that, let's stimulate our vagus nerve. So what it means is that you are stimulating the nervous system that is responsible for rest and digest state. So it's responsible for you to calming down, and it really helps fall asleep. It does help me fall asleep for sure. Then there are all kinds of other relaxation techniques, such as meditations, body scan particularly is good, the one I like, and there are progressive muscle relaxation techniques. So sometimes we tense certain muscles without even realizing it. For example, the jaw might be clenched, the shoulders might be always up like that, tense up like that. The stomach might be always contracting. This is called belly gripping, when you do tense it kind of unconsciously. So deep muscle relaxation techniques are targeting just that. So first you lie in a comfortable kind of relaxed position, and then you start tensing different parts of your body. So you tense the face and then you relax. So this allows your brain to send and understand those signals. Okay, now I'm tensing my muscles, but now I'm relaxing. So finally it knows that it can actually consciously relax your muscles instead of unconsciously always contract them. So I highly recommend this technique for in general and to fall asleep better. And then when it comes to where you sleep and how you sleep, it's important to make your environment comfortable, to make it dark, because light inhibits the production of melatonin, the sleep hormone, to make it quiet, to make it slightly cool. So there is some research showing that people who sleep in cooler environment feel better, so they sleep longer, the sleep quality is better. And the recommended temperature is 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit, or like around 20 degrees Celsius, which personally for me is too low. I keep it a bit higher, but still cooler than my kind of ambient temperature in the house during the daytime when I'm active. And you should stay away from triggers, right? From stimulants such as alcohol, nicotine, caffeine. Stay away from screens also, because they emit light, again inhibiting your melatonin production. Stay away from big meals before going to bed, and intense exercise. So big meals is also a big thing, especially if you have certain GI tract symptoms, and if you have, for example, GERD, the gastrointestinal reflux. This is something for another video, but I already made a video about CMT and GI issues, gut kind of problems, so you can watch that one. It's important to stay away from big meals in general, and especially if you have this problem of gastrointestinal reflux, which is basically the acidity coming up from your stomach into your esophagus. So let's recap again. We should have specific environment, sleep-inducive environment. We should be exercising, not too intensely, but we should. We should be doing specific exercises for the diaphragm, for the parasympathetic nervous system to calm us down, such as deep breathing, meditation, relaxation techniques. We should be following specific advice on kind of when to eat. Don't eat later than 2 or 3 hours before sleep, and stay away from stimulants that might inhibit your sleep. And if you feel that you are anxious, if you feel that you have depression or a lot of stress and it's very difficult for you to deal with it, consider therapy or different again techniques or different applications, apps that help you to deal with stress, with anxiety. I think I might make a different video about CMT and stress and how it might impact sleep and GI health and other things. If you're interested in that, leave a comment below. Now, finally, what I want to mention also is that sleep is actually very important. There are many biological processes that take place in sleep, such as myelin organization, so this sheath that covers our nerves and that is impaired in CMT type 1, particularly the myelinating types. So there are some studies in animals that show that, organization of myelin happens in sleep. And because we already have a problem with that, with the structure of myelin due to mutations in the kind of myelin-associated genes, we don't want to impair our myelin organization even more by not sleeping. So this is one thing. The other thing is that the inflammation reduction happens in sleep. The autophagy is boosted in the sleep. So autophagy is this process when our body gets rid of molecular debris. So again, you want to kind of increase the autophagy, and that's how we do it with sleep. Then memory consolidation happens in sleep. So what happened during the day gets consolidated, it gets into our long-term memory, so we don't want to skip that part. And there are also different metabolic processes that can get really worsened if we don't sleep. So there is a lot of research again saying that, for example, shift workers have impaired glucose metabolism. They are more prone to developing type 2 diabetes because they have this kind of erratic sleep schedule. We don't want that. And there is research also showing that people who undersleep tend to gain weight, tend to eat more. And again, we don't want that, because with additional weight comes more load on our joints. Again, inflammation can go up, the risks of different diseases go up if we get overweight or obese. So even for weight regulation, sleep is very important. So there are many more processes that are going on in our bodies as we sleep, so don't skip on that sleep. Switch off this video once you're done and go to bed if you're doing it before going to bed. I hope you can sleep well, and I hope that this advice that I gave you help you. For me, particularly exercising, especially diaphragmatic breathing before going to bed, meditations such as body scan, progressive muscle relaxations, and having a consistent routine before going to bed, reading, taking baths, this definitely helped me a lot. So I hope they help you too. Leave in the comments below what helps you sleep and what kind of sleep problems you are facing if you have CMT. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe, push this like button, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.